Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Under Construction. This is episode 60, I believe. Should be episode 60. I am your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Train Man, and I have a confession to make. I am afraid to get to Mason Valley. It's a pretty hefty thing to put out there, to build, and I am afraid that I'm going to get it wrong. I'm afraid that it's not going to turn out right. And I don't exactly know what right is in this situation, but that's kind of why I'm concerned. Because there isn't a very clear, yes, this looks good. And, with anything, with these things in trains, it's very, okay, this looks much better on a second glance. It's very much a you'll know it when you see it sort of situation where, yeah, I may not be able to spot what, or I may not be able to discern exactly what I'm supposed to build right off the bat. But I do know that, or I assume that, given enough time and enough iterations and enough, what would the word be, I guess, given enough effort and, sort of going through it, I feel like I should be able to figure out what I'm supposed to be looking at. Now, it would be really nice to get rid of this. Or at least minimize it like that. Okay, I came over here to grab the texture, actually. So we need this. Yeah, I am afraid that I'm going to mess it up. I'm afraid that I'm not going to get it right. I'm afraid that it's going to look weird or bad. I'm not really going to be certain how to fix it. So, that's currently my greatest fear with Tolbrand. Because I don't have a whole lot of other ones. Just, I don't. I do have some. If we want to go over that, we can. But we are soundless, we are commentless this episode. It's just going to be me, just sort of trying to think my way through life's big questions, as I normally do on this show. And talk probably a little bit more about the Housatonic. Nobody left a comment on the last episode, but I did get people DMing me, asking me, or not asking necessarily, well, in some cases asking, but in other cases giving me suggestions and ideas, and I have taken all of them to heart. In some cases I've expanded on them, in some cases I've just included them a little bit, and I was doing some brainstorming last night, and I've written about 10 pages or so, which I don't know how long your average Hollywood script is. How long is a B-movie script? Does anybody know? But I'm trying to shoot for, like 120 pages or so. That should be about 2 hours. Easy rule of thumb. Based on what I know, based on the Iron Horseman Chronicles, you get about a minute a page out of a decent script. And so we are. I say we. Now it's just me writing it this time. This is not the Iron Horseman. It's not set in the Iron Horseman universe. That's a question I got from a few people. The other thing is, I guess I didn't totally make it clear, but the Housatonic is supposed to be a standalone script. It's supposed to be set in our universe, or, at least one very, very similar to it, just where only a couple of basic conditions are different with what the railroad is, where it runs out of, that sort of thing. And it's the kind of thing where I wouldn't be filming it in my backyard. It's not like something that TJ makes where it's, he's written it and he's getting his friends to act on it and he's directing it and doing the editing and stuff like that. No. I'm just playing scriptwriter here. If somebody picks up the script to use, somebody's picked up the script to use, and that's that. I am not, you know what, we need to add the trees over here, don't we? Before I go and do this. I am not making this script with the intention of making the Housatonic. I'm making this script with the intention of somebody taking it and making the film with it. Not me. I don't have the time or the resources or the money to do something like this. This is much greater in scope. Like, I'm not caring about the scope. I'm not writing it like a blockbuster, but I am writing it like a normal film. And I, would hope that there is, I would hope that somebody would sort of take pity on me and take the script and try to turn it into a real Hollywood movie. But, I don't expect that to happen, but I do want to have the script. Now, my pipe dream, my wet dream, I guess, both, same, whatever, would be to have TJ, once he, finishes film school and becomes a famous director or producer or whatever, have him make this film, because his heart would be in it. But, it's the kind of thing where if there's ever an opportunity to put a script out there where, major directors would see it or whatever, or, just people who want to become directors, aspiring directors that have got that have got some money to blow. Now, I don't know what the budget would be like on this film, but the biggest part of it would probably be, it doesn't require any special talent. The biggest part of it would probably be the steam engine, because 1455 is a long way from running, but you could always just get another engine and pretend it's 1455, and not really, and sort of stage the scenes. You don't need to have the movie be totally authentic. It's a movie. You can do a lot with effects. And so, yeah, that's sort of what's crossed my mind. It's not, I don't have a concrete plan for the script because I am not the person that should. I just am writing the script. I'm writing a script. I'm writing it for fun. I'm not expecting anyone to come to me clamoring for this script and go, I want to make your movie. It sounds great. Let me throw a few $1 million at it or whatever. That's not what I'm expecting. In fact, I'm not expecting anything, because why would I? Maybe call it having a low bar, but really it's just like, okay, I'm writing a movie script. I don't have ties in the film industry. I'm not a script writer. I'm not somebody who does this. I just, I write for the Iron Horseman, but that's it. And the Iron Horseman is a tiny show. We've got 200 subscribers, and we haven't even made anything in a while. We're still working on it, but that doesn't mean we're actively producing. Or that doesn't mean we're actively, what's the word? Posting, I guess is the right word, but I was trying to say, we're not outputting content. We are making it, we're producing it, but it's not at a point where it can be released to the public. So, effectively, I haven't done anything in a while. I've never really released my stories, and my real creative outlet these days is the Zombie Train, which, as you guys know, is pretty short and pretty... All things considered, it's pretty insignificant. So I go on there and I talk for 15 minutes about whatever comes to mind, and then I move on. It's not like I'm building in overarching narratives, character development, that sort of thing. There are things that go on, at events that I'm trying to tie to, but every episode of the Zombie Train is fairly standalone, as long as you know the basic idea of what the Zombie Train Incorporated is and what the Zombie Train is and was. So, yeah. And, as for everything else, I don't have any writing projects other than the Housatonic that are really going anywhere. So, yeah, I'm not, a famous scriptwriter. I can't even name one off the top of my head. I'm not the Coen brothers. Mostly because I'm one person and not two, but that's kind of beside the point. I'm not Wes Anderson. There's one. There's a good one. I don't know why that didn't pop into my mind immediately. I love Wes Anderson. But, yeah, no, I don't have great aspirations for this. It's one of the few projects that I've really ever done that doesn't have an end game. It just sort of has a, well, I hope this happens someday. I feel like that's a more realistic, this is what happens when you become an adult, okay? This is how it goes. You're no longer excited about... it's not that you're no longer excited about the things that you do, but you don't have these crazy high, and we're gonna take over the world sort of things with it. It's, well, I'll do this, and I'll be entertained doing it, and that's really what matters. And then if it goes somewhere in the future, and I become filthy rich, because of the rights from this movie, then I'll be quite happy about it. But that's not what I'm looking for. Imagine if I ended up retiring because somebody picks this up and it goes crazy. It's not going to. It's not written well enough to do that. But, it doesn't have these huge underlying messages. It's not Interstellar. It doesn't have these crazy cinematic, whatever. It's not Dunkirk or anything like that. It's not crazy. It's just a comedy movie. It's just a silly movie. It's probably up there. It's probably on par with, like Game Night, Spy Who Dumped Me, those kind of things. The relatively silly movies that don't do great, but that do something. That do something. Like, I don't, you hope it doesn't flop. You hope it doesn't turn into, like a Lone Ranger, or, what's the other one that I always, Wild Wild West. Anything like that. You hope it doesn't become one of those. But I know it's not going to be the next Jaws. I know it's not going to be the next Avatar. It's got none of those crazy things that make it so, that make the other movies that I'm mentioning so special, whether it be the insane visuals or the amazing characters, or, even the scientific or historic accuracy. It's a movie about a railroad company. The railroad company exists, but it doesn't do, it's not the same people, it's not the same company, really. It just shares a name with the real-life railroad. And, the plot is not really reflected in real life. It's not based on a true story, by any stretch of the imagination. There is no Housatonic Rail Trail Commission that's trying to forcibly take over the Housatonic Railroad. The only thing that's happening to the Housatonic Railroad in real life is they're slowly slipping into obscurity as they run out of money. So, yeah, it's truth not stranger than fiction in this case. Truth just much more boring than fiction. So, yeah, if any of you guys are excited about the real life Housatonic, don't be, because they're not so great. Honestly, though, if you are excited about them, go check them out. They're really cool. They are. They're a cool little short line. They're a nice class 3, which there aren't too many anymore, and there aren't too many that are, like, super accessible like the Housatonic is. Now, I have no idea. I couldn't begin to know, like, what their schedule is. I made a couple of, not guesses, because they're not actually guesses. I'm not trying to get it right. I'm just adding in trains as the script sees fit. And by trains, I mean train, because for the purposes of the script, they only have a singular engine that works. And that's to force the necessity of getting the steam engine towards the end of the movie, which, again, that's what the movie is about. And it's not necessarily about this particular steam engine, but this is the only one that would be nearby. So, the thing that I don't want is people suggesting, "Oh, why don't you use this steam engine?" I don't need to necessarily move the setting right now, because I'm buckling down. I've figured out where it is. I've figured out a lot of what's going on, and I've started to write out. Again, the first 10 pages or so, we've got 3 or 4 characters established, and a few more on the way. And a couple of funny moments already. Last time when I talked about the Housatonic, I had, probably 4 pages of script, so I have more than that now. I have twice as much. It's not that much script, because I'm not really blazing through it. I don't have a whole lot of spare time to work on it, first of all, but I'm not really blazing through it. I'm really just, I'm really just taking it as it comes to me. As I realize, oh, this could be useful, I usually take it and I write it down in a document that's just full of ideas, and then later I go through and I move all the ideas into or I turn them into the script. Like, there isn't anything else that I can, there isn't necessarily a way for me to go faster. I mean, there is, but if I was going to just sit down and force myself to write it out, then it probably wouldn't turn out as good, and I don't want that. I want it to turn out as good as it can be, because I don't like revisions, which I've already revised portions of it. I went back to the beginning, because I have a few things that I'm riffing on. I don't have enough of them. So, the characters talk about a couple of things. One of them, who's from Adams, Clayton, he talks about how the rails were torn up in his hometown and turned into a trail. And it was one of the first things that got mentioned within the first couple of pages. He's going back and forth with the other engineer, or the other crew member who's the conductor. And, I'm sort of establishing where they're from, and I'm giving them some backstory and whatever in those first couple of pages in this short conversation that they have before everything really kicks off. And he mentions it, but then I wanted him to get a little hot at his boss later, because they're arguing about what threat the rail trail people actually pose. And the number one thing that he could cite would be how, the rails in his hometown were torn up, and, and I realized that, oh, you know what, we've brought this up before already. What am I going to do, to make it not to seem weirdly redundant? Because, yeah, it might make sense that he's saying it again to his boss, but you want to try and keep the awkwardness and the audience part out of the script. You don't want the audience going, he just talked about that. Even if, unless you're trying to make it a point of the character where he always talks about the same things, but early on in a movie you don't necessarily want to do that, and certainly not only a couple of minutes apart, because then if you are doing it on purpose, you're just beating the audience over the head with it. You want him to bring it up later. Either out of the blue or in a conversation where he could work it in, not this where it's a very valid conversation to have, and it was in both situations. It's kind of odd to have that happen. So, I'm not trying to write Clayton as the guy who tells the same stories again and again. So, for the purposes of making the script flow well and making the characters be the way I want them to be, I decided to move that, or I decided to remove it from the beginning, or remove it mostly, and just add it when he's talking to his boss only. And so that's when he mentions about, they tore up the tracks of my hometown. And before that, they're just talking about him not having any, rail service through there, not what happened to the tracks or anything like that. So I was able to swap it out and still have the conversation initially remain mostly the same, with only changing out a couple of lines, but have the things that are brought up in the conversation, or, at least drop one important thing from the conversation so that it can be brought up later instead. So that it can be brought up at a time where it's more impactful to what's going on around it. And that's something that's kind of important. You may have these things, if you're writing, you may have these things that you want to touch upon. And you can't just throw them out whenever you feel like it. You really, if you're writing and you're intending to write well, what you have to do is you have to work them into a spot where they really fit, where it really matters that you're bringing these things up, whatever they may be. You can't say, well, you can't just have, unless it's warranted by a specific character, you can't have somebody just come in and start ranting about the thing that you, the author, is passionate about, without any lead up to it, without anything that necessarily sets it up, because then you're just soapboxing. You only have that, it feels like you're only having the script to talk about that and not to tell a story, which is really what it's about. And to be fair, you might go into a script with certain things in mind, with saying, okay, during the script I want to talk about this, and I want this to happen so that, I can put this event, or these people, or this injustice, or, this important thing on a pedestal so that people can hear about it and talk about it and think about it. And that's fine. That's fine. You just have to have tact about it, like pretty much anything else. God damn it, everything I just did is on the session layer. It's okay, it's just some splines. Alright, well, anyway. So, yeah, that's... You have to have tact. You have to have a lot of tact, and when... See, the thing with... I don't really have, like a quasi-political goal when it comes to... Somebody said if I hold something, it shows me what I'm going to paste before I paste it. I don't really have, like, a quasi-political goal when it comes to the Housatonic. I don't have anything that I'm trying to soapbox about, which is unusual for me. But... No, okay, maybe it's not that unusual for me. But I oftentimes end up coming out of a script with, oh, we can use this script to talk about this issue, or this, this thing. Where going into it, I might not realize that, or I might not think that, but coming out of it, I go, I worked this, this thing into it, which is, again, kind of political, kind of soapboxing, whatever it is. I managed to fit it in there, and I would hope that I managed to not sound too preachy, although sometimes I really like sounding preachy. It's a pro and a con. But anyway, I need to cover all the grass, I'm realizing. Because the grass is supposed to be in the trees. The trees end at about the grass. So anyway, the thing with the Housatonic is, and I haven't done it yet, so, I haven't gone into the script and found a spot where I can add the soapboxing. And that doesn't mean I won't find a spot, but it means that I'm not going into it necessarily with that idea. But, and here's the but that you've all been waiting for, because I'm sure you guys have heard it coming for about 2 minutes while I rambled. Oh crap, there isn't grass here. But I would like it to be a movie about, if there is to be a moral of sorts, if there is to be something where you come out of it going, yeah, I should really reconsider my stance on this, or maybe I should think about this, or, that sort of thing. I'd rather it be sort of a commentary on rails to trails and rails with trails, and sort of the antagonism that exists between the two communities, between railroaders and, people who use multi-use trails, whether that be bicyclists, nature enthusiasts, whatever, all that, and because there isn't just one, first of all, there isn't just one kind of person that uses a multi-use trail, hence the name, but, the people that support rails to trails versus the people that are staunchly against it, and this is really, the movie's about them. The movie's about that. It's very much sort of on the nose, because that's what the movie's about. And, I don't want to come at it from a point of view, and I talked about this, I don't really want to come at it to where, I'm alienating a large number of people, whether the rail fans that come, and it's like, oh, the railroad's being evil towards the trail people. Of course they are. The trail people are always the good guys. Or, alienate people who support rails to trails, or, that sort of thing. Because those are really more of your average consumer. There are more people that use a multi-use trail than there are foamers. As much as I hate to admit it. As far as preference goes, in most places, most people, or the majority of people that care enough, are going to be the ones that care about the change, that care about changing over to a rail trail. So I don't want the movie to flop because I'm being antagonistic towards this group of people. So, the ultimate goal is to have a movie where both groups can be happy about it, and both groups can sort of see the other side of it. There's going to be a bad guy. There's going to be a guy that's clearly in the wrong with what he's doing with regard to the Housatonic Rail Trail. And he's going to be part of the trail people. But the idea is, this one person doing these crazy things does not stand for what, does not stand for because he was a former member of the railroad, thank you Mason for this idea, does not stand for A, what the railroad is, or B, what the people that support the trail want. They want something that they can use every day. If you want a hiking, bicycling, a multi-use trail over a railroad roadbed, you probably want it because you don't have a use for that railroad, and you don't see a utility for that railroad, and you want to use that corridor, you want to be able to access that corridor that you feel like exists, in a sort of state of, whether it be abandonment or just neglect. And that's not too far-fetched compared to where a lot of these rail corridors are, especially the ones that are really ripe for being turned into trails. And in this case, in the case of the Housatonic, the corridor isn't abandoned, but it is scarcely used, and in real life it's scarcely used and getting less used all the time. To the point where actually some of the railroad is not owned by the railroad anymore, they sold it off to the DOT. But, anyway, I digress. Yeah. So, the goal is to show that, the railroad people, for the sake of the majority of the public audience who may not side with the railroad right away, or, even whether they're neutral on it, which is what I would expect most people to be, because most people aren't really antagonistic, whether they're really neutral on it, or whether they would automatically think, yeah, no, we need a rail trail, and side with the trail people right away. Make them, I forget where I was going, something about people and looking at what they want, and obviously the point is not to accuse anyone or, say that anyone supporting a rail trail is like the bad guy. His name's Thompson. His name is Thompson Rain. He's a former railroad employee. He was fired from the Housatonic Railroad for whatever. Not entirely sure yet. Maybe just like Rule G, maybe something worse. And he holds a grudge against the railroad, so he's trying to bring them down. So, but anyway, that's just sort of the way it is for that, and it's to create an antagonist that is just an antagonist, because if you have... So, gray area is good. For lack of a better word, it is good. And the reason it is good is because it gives your film flexibility. It gives it the opportunity to be seen in different lights, to be seen in different perspectives, and to have some, sympathy that goes both ways, whether, towards the protagonist and towards the antagonist. And remember, antagonist doesn't necessarily mean villain, it doesn't necessarily mean bad guy or evil. It just means the person that's working against the protagonist. You can have an evil protagonist and a good antagonist if you're looking at it from the other point of view. Protagonist, just the main character, not the good guy. It just so happens to be that the main character is usually a good guy because... I don't need to explain that. So... the antagonist in this case... the antagonist is just the rail trail group. And just like I was talking about, antagonists aren't necessarily bad. They aren't bad. And that's, that's something I also want to get across, because I feel like, and to be fair, don't hang around a lot of rail trail circles very often. Or ever, for that matter. Not because I don't like them, but just because I don't go out of the house a lot. But I don't, A, there aren't any near me, I don't think. And B, I don't really have a use for them. Not that I don't have a use for them, I ride a bike, but there aren't any ones near me that are relevant to me, is what I'm trying to say. I am in a place where the only railroad that could be rail trailed, or the railroads, are already done, already taken care of. So I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to fight in any direction. And So I am basically, I have no side in this conflict. In whatever, whatever conflict comes up, whatever rail trail stuff I hear about, I try to think about it then and there and not, well, how about utility to me? Because I am nowhere near it, and I probably never will be. So until the idea of trailizing the Northeast Corridor comes up, I don't think I'm going to be too near any rail trail propositions anytime soon. So, anyway. The goal, okay, so every film, you gotta have a happy ending. You want a happy ending. You need a happy ending. Because why, not too many films get watched too often if they've got a real sad ending. I mean, maybe, some of them do. Some films, some people, they love it. They love the, oh, well, and then everybody died. And I can understand the appeal. I'm not gonna diss it. There are definitely films with tragic endings that are good. And I'm not even talking like classical, like, Romeo and Juliet. I'm talking about endings where it's not clear that the hero won, or, the day isn't necessarily saved, or, that sort of thing, where it's, where it's like, oh, and it's sort of, it teaches you a lesson, or whatever. And, there are films like that. They're not as big nowadays. They aren't, people don't flock to them as much because you want to come out of a movie feeling good and not bad. So, the older, the classic style of tragedy, and again, that's why I say it's the classic style, or just tragedies in general, they don't really exist in cinema as much anymore. Usually somebody gets a happy ending. The massage therapist jerks somebody off at the end of the movie. But, there are films where that doesn't happen. So, this isn't one of those films. This is not depressing. It's not, it's not sad. Nobody's gonna die. Even Thompson, even the guy who basically, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, basically attempts murder, doesn't get killed, probably gets thrown in jail, but doesn't get killed. It's not like, it's not like vigilante justice going on. You don't have the Batman come in and punch the guy half to death and then leave him for dead, because that's what Batman does. He doesn't kill, but he definitely leaves people in situations where they're going to die without immediate medical attention. So, anyway, that's my gripe with Batman. I don't actually have a gripe with Batman. I quite like Batman. But he definitely does that. And the reason he doesn't kill is because he doesn't want to stoop to that level, so it's totally a moral thing. He wants to. He definitely wants to. It's not like, why don't you do it? Because if I started killing, and this is from a Batman comic or something, he basically says if I started killing, I don't think I'd be able to stop. I would, not killing is the dividing line that separates me from them, me from the people that I go after. And if I cross that line, I wouldn't necessarily be able to get back. That was his rationale for not killing. And I think that's pretty great. So, anyway, Thompson Rain doesn't have that rationale. Nobody in the railroad really does. Maybe except for Jack, because Jack, and this is something that I thought of, and Mason helped me flesh it out a little bit. Jack, who's the head of the railroad, also, his last name is Nisuno, or, Nisino, which is a rough translation of, nothing in Italian. So, he's got a generic first name and a last name that literally means nothing. So it should kind of give you the idea that maybe this is a fake name, because it is. He has some pretty intense mob ties, and he's going to get taken away about halfway through the movie. It's going to be one of the things that sort of goes on in the background, and it happens in order to, put the railroad in a worse spot, because they no longer have the pretty deep and strong connections that Jack had to, just about everybody. But also, the reason he is in charge of the railroad is not because he cares about the railroad, it's because he's using the railroad as a money laundering front. Anyway, that's something that may or may not be explicitly stated within the film, but it's something that will definitely be hinted at, and then again, Jack gets taken away. Again, and then, furthermore, leaves a massive hole in the sort of lineup of people that are in charge of the railroad. And by people that are in charge of the railroad, I mean the literally 3 people that work on the Housatonic. So, that's another extension. I don't know how many people work on the Housatonic, but I do know it's more than 3. So, the Housatonic Railroad in the Housatonic film consists of all of 3 people. It consists of Jack, the owner, Clayton, the engineer, and Samuel, the conductor. And that's it. That's it. That's everybody. So, losing Jack, who really is the only one there with any business sense, is a pretty hefty blow to the railroad. It's something that they really didn't want to happen. And, nonetheless, it happens. I need a stone wall. Stone, not retaining wall. Those are nice, though. Stone wall 8 foot, stone wall 9. How about this? So, he's the only one really with any business sense. Well, almost. He's almost the only one with any business sense. And so, they lose him, things look real bad. And this gives the only other person in the film with business sense a chance to step up and redeem herself. And that person is Abigail Mission, who is at this point still. Because she doesn't necessarily give up her position. She just sort of denounces the people that are going crazy. The head of the Rail Trail Commission. And she steps up and she leads the railroad, and initially they don't trust her. Of course, why would you? She's trying to bring down your company. But she ends up doing a decent job. She ends up doing, in fact, okay. Her doing a decent job is not something that may happen within the confines of the film. Her doing a decent job is something that would probably be talked about, or, sort of explained in the denouement, in the end, like after the climax of the film. She is not experienced in running a railroad, so she doesn't really know all of everything that's going on or what to do. And she comes on at a point in time when she comes on at a point in time when they really don't have anything else. And I'm thinking about this, and I am, literally currently thinking about this because it's what's on my mind. There are trees all over my road. And so I'm thinking about Abigail, and I'm thinking about taking over, or her having control of the railroad. And when would that happen? Because I want one of the main, one of the primary things to fuel them getting the steam engine or stealing the steam engine is the fact that Jack can't call in any favors because he's already in jail. So, he's already gone. So that means that Jack has to be gone by the time they dunk the engine. And by they, I mean Thompson, and by dunk, I mean Thompson derails the train, and, in a bit of comedy, of course, almost drowning is always hilarious. So, the plan is, there's a place called Great Falls on the Housatonic River, and it's pretty great, and there are some falls, and the railroad comes really close to the riverside. Riverside, in this case, being the edge of the head race for the powerhouse for the falls. Because it's a man-made dam. There were falls there, and they got added to by mankind to create some power. So, he does that. He dislodges a rail, and he's a railroader, so he knows what to do to be subtle enough that it won't be noticed on approach, and damaging enough that it will do what he wants it to do. He really just wants to derail the train, but he gets more than he bargained for. So he derails the train there. It comes off. It's heading back north. It's long hood forward, so they can't see very well. It's a GP35. It's number 3600. Is the star of this movie for like the first 2/3, and so he derails the train successfully. It comes off the tracks, grinds to a halt, and I'm not sure how to necessarily have this go, but maybe one of the crew gets out of the engine, but maybe not. Maybe one of the crew goes to get out of the engine and they start getting shot at. So they all get out in the engine, but the engine, which is sitting on the ties, just the ground underneath, because it's just sitting cockeyed on the ground, starts to give a little bit. The engine starts to tip. The engine tips over and falls into the river. Or into the head race, I guess. So, then there's a scramble, get out of the cab, whatever, swim to the other side, or swim away from where you're getting shot at. It's a really tense scene. And now their only engine is in the river. And so they get back to Abigail, and this is well past the point of, oh God, I mean, this would have to be past, if Abigail's in charge, that means she's already had her change of heart. She's already past the point of, this is going too far. So that means there has to be some other things that happen first. Now, I'm going to have to write this down. So that means there are going to be some other things that Thompson does first that she deems too far. Now, originally my thinking was, these people get dunked and then she changes her mind. But I want that to happen sooner so that, this is the day before the inspection. Abigail is in charge of the railroad, and all hell is breaking loose. The engine is in the drink. They can't get it out. They don't have an engine. The inspector's coming tomorrow. They need to run the train, or else they'll have the funds revoked. They'll be horrifically in debt. They'll have to close the railroad. So, and so that's when, what are we going to do? Well, we have to steal the engine from the... it's a very national treasure moment. We have to steal the Declaration of Independence. We have to steal the B&M 1455 out of the Danbury Railway Museum. And also, this is one of the things I had to look up. Hold on, I need a drink. Danbury has 3 diesels that work. So that throws a little wrench in my plan. Fortunately for my plan, the diesels that work are 2 shunters, so not particularly useful for a commuter service. They wouldn't be able to get the speed up. And an RS-1. Now, the RS-1 would probably be a decent candidate for stealing, for using, to do on the commuter service, and that would be almost a even more modern interpretation of Titfield Thunderbolt, because Titfield Thunderbolt is steam engine for steam engine. This would be diesel for diesel. It would make sense, almost. But if the Alco, the poor Alco, is down for repairs, then you've got no other choice. Oh, I don't actually have that grass down here, do I? If the Alco is down for repairs, you don't have any other choice. You have to take the steam engine because the shunters aren't going to do. Either way, you're stealing a locomotive. They're not just going to say, oh, you can borrow it. It's okay. And they wouldn't say that, first of all. Second of all, you know what? This isn't going to be great, is it? So, second of all, the Diesel would need a key. The steam engine doesn't need one of those. Now, that's something I can think of. That's something I can do. So obviously, the crew of the Housatonic, engineer and conductor Clayton and Samuel, is going to be pretty tired. They already probably sleep during the day most of the time. They have the illustrious honor of running this commuter service during the day with a break at noon, and then they run the freight service during the night. So, it's not really, they don't have more crew, they really just sleep a few hours and then a few hours. They're committed to getting the railroad working. They're committed to having, having the service because they know it's their only hope. But, boy, are they exhausted. Now, there's the love interest, which I'm not sure I totally explained this. There's the love interest. Her name is Mattie. Mattie. M-A-T-T-I-E, not Maddie, because I originally wrote that and went, that's not what I meant. So there's Mattie, the love interest, for Michael. But Michael is the son of Samuel. But it's not really like that. You see, she's not the love interest for him. He's the love interest for her. She is crushing on him pretty hard. And he doesn't really, he's not into it. He's just okay with being her friend. So, part of the movie is going to, the obligatory Hollywood love story is going to be her getting the guy instead of him getting the girl. So, we have, again, this love interest. This girl. Now let's go find that girl. Who's crushing on Michael, who's also into horses, because why not? She's one of those. And Michael, again, there's the horse gag that I mentioned, where Michael has to steal a horse to escape. Probably Thompson at this point. And so, he has to take a horse and ride away, because it's his only way of escape at that point. So, that is set up briefly by mentioning that there's this family with horses. Then the family is going to be mentioned, by name, I guess. Not really, but she is mentioned by name in, the second scene a couple of times, because Michael's talking about her, because she's the reason that he's at the meeting and the protest and gets spotted, because he's spying for the Housatonic Railroad, and so he knew that she was involved, so he sort of showed interest, and she was like, yeah, come with me, and then he had a free ticket, basically. Not that it's anything other than free to actually be a part of that. But he gets in because he wants to relay the information back to his dad and the Housatonic Railroad, because he's totally on their side. He's a bit of a train buff. So, and the more I think about it, the more he's like the kid from 587, which, no, but the more I think about it, the more that comes to mind. I don't want it to be in mind. I don't want to think about that. I don't want that connection being made, but too late, it's already made. Now I have to live with that, and I'm not happy about that. So effectively, I'm pissed off. You guys are to blame. Okay, maybe you guys aren't to blame, but I don't want him to be like the kid from 587. I don't want him to be like the kid from 587. Just anything else. I don't care. He can be like the kid from friggin' Polar Express. That's fine. You can compare him to that guy, but not the kid from 587. Oh no, please. But the more I think about it, the more he is sort of like that. Not really, because, let's be honest. He's 15 versus 10-ish, and there aren't really a lot of parallels to draw. It's just the only other movie with kids stealing a steam engine that I can think of. Gee, I wonder. Uh, there aren't too many to choose from if you haven't figured that part out yet. So, that sort of is sticking in my head. But the whole thing with that is, she's got these horses. She loves her horses almost as much as she loves Michael. And Samuel is going to mention to his son at one point, he's going to mention to Michael at one point, maybe you should, go and learn to ride a horse. You might get an appreciation. Because he thinks that she's great for him. Even if he doesn't agree. And he makes that assertion very known at the dinner table, which leads to some exclamations from both Michael's mother, Samuel's wife, and Clayton, who is joining them. So, anyway, the plan is to literally have him at, if you need me to go get you condoms at some point. And Clayton is like, whoa! And the mother just sort of glares at Sam. It's like how, what? Like, did you just say that out loud? Seriously? I'm liking this grass more and more. Just gotta throw that out there. And so, yeah. That's what's in my head right now. So he's trying, not totally to set him up with her, but he thinks that she's great for him, and is just trying to nudge him in that direction. And so he eventually goes. Well, she picks him up the following day from their home in Pittsfield and brings him down, or not the following day, but the next time there's a meeting, brings him down to the meeting, which is where the character Thompson is introduced, and Abigail is given a real introduction, and Maddie is given an introduction. So we have the bit where we introduce, 4 characters or so, and then we have a little break where those characters, mingle, and then we have another introduction of a bunch of characters that are going to make up, the rest of the plot. And maybe I'll introduce the old-timer from the Danbury Museum as well. So, because he would want to be at the meeting because these are his rails that they're tearing up. So, yeah. And that's a thought. So I just had that. I'm gonna have to write down all this crap. I've already forgotten half of it, which is, oh, that's a shame. But oh well. And so he sort of gets an affection for the horses. Maybe a little. He learns how to ride a horse, and he also spends time with Maddie, and that sort of leads him to go, I guess she's not so bad, and starts to get into her a little bit. And, it's the love story is really just him getting into her, bouncing a bow wow, in a non-literal fashion, because they're 15. Well, she's 16, he's 15. I wanted to make them both 15, but she needed to be able to drive, and he needed to not be able to drive. So, she is 16, he is 15. She is 16, going on 17. And she can drive, which is important to the plot. At least in a small way. Because he can't drive, doesn't have a car, steals Clayton's truck. It will come to light, apparently on a fairly regular basis. Clayton's not happy about that, just to throw that out there. And so, yeah, that's that. She needed to be able to drive, so for plot reasons, she's a little bit older. Not that it matters. Crap. Yeah, so she loves horses. Said that about 10 times now. But, he doesn't know how to ride a horse at the beginning of the film. And he learns to ride a horse pretty much just to appease his dad, who's like, you should get to know her and get an appreciation for horses. And he's like, sure, I guess, whatever. And also because he suggests that, he says, maybe you can teach me about horses when they're together later. Again, maybe because he doesn't realize how much he likes her, whatever. He makes an excuse to stick around. I don't know. I'm shrugging at that, but he does. So, he makes the excuse to stick around, learns how to ride a horse, comes in handy later. And the thing is, I'm wondering who's going to be thicker, and not like thick baby. Who's going to be thicker? Who's going to be the first one to convert? Is it going to be Abigail, or is it going to be Maddie? Who's the first one that says, wow, this stuff has gone too far. I'm not going to really be, maybe Maddie takes the reins of the rail trail group when Abigail says, I'm out. I could see that happening. And so, that's a thought. And which makes it more difficult for her to get the guy. But that's something, again, plot needs to happen. It needs to be worked in. It can be worked in. It's not impossible. So, there are all sorts of things you can do when you have plot on your side. But yeah, the end goals are, like I was bringing up at the beginning, the end goals, I want to have this movie be a film where everyone, pretty much, gets to be happy in the end. I want a happy ending. And I want to have the railroad and its commuter service, and I want to have the trail. Oh, this fat cat hanging out with me. Why? To show that you can have one with the other. To show everyone that you can do this. And for everyone that's, on the fence, that's thinking about it, whatever, that it is possible, and that it's really the thing to push for, because then everyone gets to be happy. Well, except for Thompson, anyway. Alright, so, what does this look like? Alright, so I'm going to get rid of that last one, and I'm going to try that again. I don't want to go outside of the boundary. I'm just going to sort of skirt along the edge here, because this is going to be our crop in here. I don't know what this is, but it's a crop of some kind. Actually, I can cover the edge and then come back and redo the edge just a little bit. Ideally, this would probably be corn. Is this closer? This is closer to corn. I'll use this. I think. Yeah, that looks like corn. That looks kind of corny. So, the end is going to be a rails with trails, which, as many probably know, it's a much more difficult proposition to make that. The reason that people are all for rails to trails is because it's easy, because you already have a right-of-way that's pretty much ideal for biking, because it's got wide curves and low grades, relatively speaking, and it's wide enough to put a multi-use path on with 2 lanes of 5 feet or 7 feet in each direction, or 1 lane in each direction, 2 lanes total. I know it's the kind of thing where it's, it feels like a no-brainer to people that don't have any stake in the railroad being there. And I'm not trying to say that don't care about the railroad. Again, I don't want to put anybody in a negative light here. I'm sure you all already have your opinions. This isn't a show, this isn't an op-ed, this isn't about changing opinions. So, the movie might be, but this show isn't necessarily. I'm trying to be as neutral as I can. So, so the end is going to be rails with trails, which is a much more difficult proposition, but anyway. So that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about all day. But the thing that you guys should know is the other day I found out that I passed the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, the FE exam. So now I can become a certified engineer, like an engineer for real, not just a guy with a diploma that says I majored in engineering, like an engineer. So I solve problems And yeah, go me. Tomorrow I'm recording this on Friday, which is unusual, but yesterday was a pretty good sized day for me. And tomorrow I am going to the Enchanted City Festival, which is a steampunk convention in Troy, New York. Hold on. Let me see if I can get cornfield spline. How bad does this look? Pretty bad, gotta say. Not great. Cornfield harvest spline. Yeah. Not that much better. Let's look at the wheat splines. Not that either. No. How about wheat? Ah, there we go. These guys. It's a little bit too subtle, almost. But whatever. I don't want to really overlap this that much, but I may have to. I mean, really, I should just fill the whole field up, however it looks. This is the one time you don't want necessarily the orientation to be all random, but in this case, it might not be bad because this field is weirdly shaped. So I can just sort of put stuff along the edge and then fill in the middle, and it'll just be good enough. Yeah. As long as I've got something in this field, it'll look a whole lot better than if I've got nothing in this field. Because this texture is not the best. I've seen better. Now here's hoping that nothing I'm using is non-DLS. Now if I am using something non-DLS, I'll have to come in and change it, and I'll do that before I release the next version of the route. But for now, I'm just going at it. I'm just building the wheat field. Anyway, so let me think some more. So Thompson is going to do a few things, and they're probably going to escalate in like A, ridiculousness, and B, dangerousness / illegality. So initially he's going to start off with fairly mundane stuff, probably threatening, that sort of thing. And it's going to evolve into probably physical violence, and then continue on to attempted murder. That sort of fun stuff. Nothing really crazy, just attempted murder. And, again, after the verbal stuff, probably going to get a warning from Abigail. He's not going to care. Then, after the physical stuff is when she realizes that, this has gone too far. She also probably starts getting some pushback from some people, including Michael is going to be sort of part of her posse. A little bit, not really. Again, he's a spy, sort of a double agent. But, yeah, the question is how much do I have, or she's going to be converted fairly early on. Because it's going to go from, we have to beat out the trail people, to, we have to survive inspection. And that's when stuff's really going to get interesting. So they're going to have, the ability to they have the commuter service. The towns are loving it, and the people are loving it. So there are fewer people at the trail meetings. Fewer people really care about the trail, or feel like it's necessary or whatever. And and on top of that, fewer people complaining about the train means fewer people that care about having the trail. So you have, fewer people, and so the only people left are the people that are more devout. The people that are a little bit crazier, like Thompson. So he's then rallying these people. Abigail's like, this is wrong. Why are we doing this? And he's like, because I'm just trying to get rid of the railroad. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. She's like, no, I just wanted to make the community better. I didn't really dislike the railroad in the first place. The wordage, and she explains this to the railroad, the wordage that I used, the wordage that she used, was really just to get people riled up. It wasn't because I hated the railroad. I really have nothing against you guys. And they're like, sure. Whatever you say. And yeah, okay, so that's a pretty good timeline. Now that I'm thinking about it, I hadn't put that much thought into the order of events as the script goes on, but it really has to be that, okay, they start running this commuter service as a way, at the start of the film, the rail trail has 2 towns on board. Those are the towns of New Milford, where it's based, and Great Barrington, which is another really big, touristy town in the Berkshires, which they would see, obvious benefit from really either commuter rail or a trail. It's just a trail is a hell of a lot easier to accomplish. So, the trail is on the table. They say, sure, let's do the trail. So they start funding the trail study, the 2 of those towns. And Jack sort of blows it off like, these things normally fizzle out, it's not a big deal. We'll deal with it when it gets bigger. And then it gets bigger. So you see the railroad trying to do things day to day, doing things normally with its own internal struggles. After the very beginning, things cool down for a little while. You see the railroad just getting along with its internal struggles. 1306 sort of getting worse, not performing as well, and sort of slowly more evident Jack's sort of relative disdain for the railroad, how he doesn't really see the railroad as anything that he cares about, because he's not scheduling the broken down engines to get fixed. He's not scheduling 3600 for maintenance or anything like that. He's not helping. He's just sitting back and he's laundering money. He's pretending that he's doing things. So I need a farmhouse or something. No. Yeah, put this over here. Again, guy doesn't do much. Guy doesn't care about the railroad. He's not there for the railroad. He's there because the railroad provided a pretty good, don't crash, pretty good opportunity for him to launder money without getting looked at too critically, because it's a tiny backwater railroad in the middle of nowhere. So, that the light is sort of shined on that. Abigail, continues gaining power, gaining strength, gaining power. Michael and Maddie come closer to one another, and Michael starts to learn horses. Maddie starts to learn trains a little bit because she's trying to get into the things that he's getting into, and, again, to win him over. And, crap. And then, it sort of reaches a critical mass, where it's like, oh, the railroad is the railroad realizes, hey, the trail is a problem. Like, they're really a problem. We need to start talking to people to get ourselves out of this. And so, Jack finally realizing that his precious fake business might be in danger, starts calling, oh god, that's not right. Starts calling up his friends like, hey, can you bail me out of this situation? Starts calling up town mayors like, no, you can't do this. Where, I run this railroad, you can't take down the railroad. I'm telling you that you're not going to do it. And, somebody finally stands up to him. Probably Thompson outs him, because Thompson would know, after working on the railroad for as long as he did. Thompson probably outs him when he realizes the forces that have been going up against them, and then Jack gets put in the slammer. Jack's gone. He's off the movie. He's no longer part of the company, no longer has a part in the movie. And then they realize, oh crap. And Thompson getting rid of Jack is going to happen a little bit later than most of Thompson's shenanigans, because what's going to happen is, yeah, okay, sorry. I'm messing up the order of things. I almost skipped over the whole commuter rail bit. The important part of the movie. So, Thompson calls up the mayors, but he can't do a whole lot, turns out. Normally he's pretty omnipotent, but they're not, it's not working right now for whatever reason. And, then he... Okay. Thompson's got to cut a deal with them. He's got to say, what can we do to make the railroad worth your while? Because he doesn't, that's the thing, he doesn't want to expend any of his real serious political favors on the railroad itself. Because the railroad, again, doesn't care about the railroad. The railroad isn't his cash cow. His cash cow is the things he's doing on the back end of the railroad. He just needs to keep the railroad existing. And so, it's maybe the other guys that really push for it more to get this operation. And he sort of relents and goes, okay, well, let me make some more phone calls. And so he makes the phone calls, and he says, okay, we can get a commuter service running. We can do it. I talked to some people that I know, and they're going to let us run these trains. We just need to get our equipment. We need to get equipment for it. You go, okay, well, we have an engine. We just need coaches. He goes, okay, well, let me, again, talk to some people. And so, again, talks to some people, gets a federal or a local grant, I think it was a local grant, like a state grant, for the coaches, purchases the coaches on the stipulation that, yeah, you guys have to run this service. You got to run it, 2 times a day in each direction at least, preferably 4 times a day, and we will not call on your loan right away, because if you aren't running it, then you just owe us all this money back for these coaches. And they said, okay, we'll do it. And then, they start working night and day. So, Thompson doesn't like that because he realizes they're actually sort of swaying the town's opinions by running this, tries to take them out. Firstly tries to intimidate them. Jack doesn't really have any of it. And Abigail is privy to this, and she realizes that, hey, no, that's bad. We can't just intimidate our opponents. If we're doing this, we just have to make our deal better than theirs. And he's like, yeah, shut up. And he continues doing it. Then he, escalates things. Again, not sure how. It'll probably be a little bit more situational. I don't want to say it now because it'll probably change. But, escalates things eventually to the point where he's, and he's not doing it alone. He's rallied some people behind him, which Abigail is getting more and more disgusted with the group of people that she's working with. And so he rallies these people to help him basically do some unpleasant stuff. Oh, we covered over the lake. I need to delete all the lake trees. And oh crap, I just placed a bunch of houses. get rid of the houses. So, yeah, and this is sort of where it gets difficult, where it gets complicated, where I really have to think about what's going on when, because in order to make these things fall into place, things have to happen in a really specific order, and I haven't figured that order out yet. If you can't tell, so if you have any ideas, feel free to say something. I might like them. But anyway, the people, the cheese of truth. Now, oh, for God's sake, let me get in there. Where's my lake? Over here. So Thompson's rallying people. They're sort of creating a schism within the rail trail people. There's Abigail and the people that she's trying to keep on board, which are fairly moderate folks that just sort of, they just want a bike path. They just want to, they want to be able to see, the Berkshires on their bikes. And then there's the other people that are Thompson's folks, and they're the radicals. They're the people that just want the railroad gone, pretty much no matter what it takes. And they are supporting him in doing whatever he thinks is the right course of action. He doesn't really have a lot of scruples. So, they start doing some unscrupulous things. Again, intimidation, assault, maybe, escalating, stalking, that sort of thing, the vicious house calls, all that. And it's really keeping Jack up at night, in sort of a literal sense. And I think I'm going to raise this water a lot. And then Thompson figures out who he is, and he realizes, oh, I've got a freaking trump card right here. I can ruin this guy. I can take him out of the equation. So, eventually he does. That's the end of Jack. But by that point, Abigail's already fed up with him, and pretty fed up with the rail trail stuff. Now, Abigail is only in it. Abigail isn't in it because she wants a trail. She wants the community to be better so that she can put that on her resume, so that she can become a politician. She wants to be elected, whether it be, sort of to a local position or to a higher position, but she just wants to be, in a position of political power because she just wants to be able to shape communities like that. And so that's why she's behind the rail trail, because she feels like it'll, A, make the community better, but B, it'll also be something really nice and shiny to put on my resume to make myself look pretty great. So, that's that. That's her motives. And so when stuff starts breaking down with the rail trail, when stuff starts looking really bad because Thompson is doing all sorts of things, she's basically like, I'm not doing this. I'm out. And she's probably made friends with, and that's the other thing, so she needs to be able to, she needs to bond with Michael and Maddie on a pretty significant level. Now, Maddie is already like her right-hand girl, or at least that's how I intend to write it. And so she's got a bond with the both of them, and so that's when she realizes that, hey, this is impacting the people that work for the railroad. And that could be kind of bad, but we're trying to improve the community as a whole. There are some consequences to doing that. I guess I'm okay with it. And then, stuff starts getting really sour, and she realizes, no, I'm not okay with this. This isn't okay. I need to do something about this. And so when Jack gets ousted, she realizes the railroad doesn't really have anybody to turn to, and she picks up the reins. So she doesn't, at that point she's basically turned her back on what she previously wanted, and she's just about helping these few people. She's about helping this group. And, that's pretty noble. That's her turnaround. And again, that's fairly early on in the movie, or not fairly early on, but that's that's second act stuff. I think I don't know how movie acts actually work, but that is we still got some rising action going on there. We've got folks that we've unveiled the commuter service for most of the way. I mean, actually, no. Let's see. It really depends on what's going on there, because they still have the diesel. They are running the commuter service successfully. They're gaining traction over the rail trail, which at this point is falling apart. But now their biggest enemy is not the rail trail. Their biggest enemy is the government inspector who's going to show up. So that's where it comes to. That's how it ends up. That's how it ends up becoming problematic for them. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to do a lot of braining about this right now, and maybe it's a little bit too much. And plus the fact that I haven't written it down. But just the thinking through this is really what's going to help me. So that's a lot of the same tree. I don't really mean to do that, but it'll be okay. So yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it looks weird, but it doesn't necessarily look bad. Yeah. Okay, so order of events. Beginning of the movie, they've got two towns. It's not a big. They're not a big deal. They're dismissed. It's not a big deal. They begin gaining more and more traction. So they begin gaining more and more traction. They begin getting a few more towns. Jack is still reluctant to call in favors. So the other, railroad guys sort of take things into their own hands. They figure, okay, if we can sway community favor, because they realize that the only reason that towns are siding with them is the towns are like, what does the railroad really do for us? And the answer is kind of nothing. So they realize, okay, if we can sway community favor in our favor, then we will be able to, capture the hearts and minds and be able to keep running the railroad. Okay, how do we do that? How about a commuter service? And they go, okay, and they go to Jack. And they go, Jack, we have an idea. And he's like, really? You guys have an idea? We're really doing this? He's like, yes, we need to run a commuter service. Okay, how are you going to do that? Well, we've got an engine. We're willing to do it. We're willing to put in the extra hours. And he's like, okay, we've got an engine. We need coaches, though. How are we going to move people without coaches? We need to call up somebody. We need to get coaches. You can get us coaches. Come on. You can do this one thing. Don't fall through. Or else we'll lose the railroad. Don't you realize that? He's like, yeah, I realize. All right, I'll make the call. And so he makes the call, gets this grant, buys some coaches, second-hand coaches probably, but buys some coaches. They start running commuter service. It's a smash hit. It's great. They're doing great. Thompson takes things into his own hands. And also, during this point in time, they've probably met at one point. Abigail and Jack. There's probably a meeting between the two of them to suss things out, and Jack is pretty apathetic and doesn't really get a whole lot done. But we'll see if they need to meet. But anyway, at the very least, they start running this commuter service, and they go and talk to the trail people, and they're like, listen, we have this community favor now. You guys probably not going to get your trail. And Thompson takes this as an affront. Maybe they don't have that meeting, but whatever. Whatever. Things develop. I'm not sure how much I want the two sides of the cast to really interface. But the idea is that, maybe they don't need to. Maybe they can just interface through the kids, through Michael and Maddie. So, they do that. They start running the community service, going great. Thompson starts escalating things again. Threats, house calls, maybe slash tires, that sort of thing. Vigilante crap. The bad kind of vigilante. I know vigilante is like vigilante justice, but no, just like crazy, creepy stalker stuff. And so Jack is sort of relenting. He's like, listen, I'm not sure this is such a good idea. And they're like, why? And then Thompson realizes and Jack gets ousted right as, this is shortly after the horse run. And so Thompson realizes, they're beheaded. And meanwhile, Abigail takes over the railroad because she realizes there's nothing else that I can do. She's, pretty much witness to the horse run, that sort of thing. She realizes that, not only are these people's livelihoods in danger, but the thing that I've created, this group that I've created, is now putting their literal lives in danger. So I've got to do something about that, and I can't seem to rein Thompson in. So she then sees she drives after the horse thing. A lot of things happening at once, hypothetically. Thompson calls in Jack for being who he is, and the cops are going to get him. Michael figures this out and does the British are coming, with Thompson trying to literally kill him to prevent him from getting to Jack and warning him. Car's taken out, he grabs the horse, he goes up the way, but he doesn't make it there in time. He gets there just in time to see Jack get taken away. And that's it. And Abigail, who's running after him, and figuratively, in her car, trying to catch up to him because she was delayed. She didn't realize what was happening right away. Maybe she found out from Thompson, who was like, ha, like what I did. Gets up there, realizes what's happened, realizes the railroad is pretty much in mortal peril at this point, and decides to take it on. Decides to go, you know what, this is my job now. I am going to support you guys. I'm going to command you guys if you will let me. We can figure this out. And they go, okay. You know what? Okay. And so it starts the slow closure of the rail trail group, because now they're beheaded too. Thompson's pretty upset by this. But he figures, well, you know what? I don't need them anyway. I can still take out the railroad. So he and his goons, or maybe just he on his own, because maybe the goons disappear, they go and derail the train. They drop the engine in the river. The engine goes in the river, and he almost kills both of them. Following that, which is pretty traumatic as is, they get back and they realize, oh no, the inspector's coming tomorrow. We don't have anything to show for it because we can't run our train. What are we going to do? And that's when they decide to steal the steam engine and run the train with that. And that's, again, it's the middle finger in the face of Thompson, because he would be actively trying to stop them. Also, this is Treadway Beach. Look how cute this is. Oh, this is so great. I love this place. Oh my god. Okay, I need some cars, and that'll be it. That's all I need. We spent an hour and a half detailing this, but I'm totally okay with that. So, I think I'll do the blue one over at this house. So, the back this in more. There you go. I lost where I was. Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of it. You got the whole thing there. I feel like that's wrapped a lot of it up. You have the... You have the... him eventually get carted off to jail for whatever he tries to do during the last run of the railroad. And... Or the inspector's run, I guess. And... I need the lines of cars. Hold on. I need to get them. I'm forgetting things. I already lost what I had. It's unfortunate that I already forgot what I was talking about because I feel like we were doing so well. Thompson gets put in jail. Jack ends up in jail. There's no happy ending for Jack. Unfortunately, he just... jail. But Abigail becomes the new head of the railroad. They thrive. Maddie and Michael get together. Samuel probably moves down to Pittsfield or whatever. Oh, that's too long. That's what she said. So, move that over there. Hold on, let's get another A version because that'll be nice and small. There we go, Treadway Beach. Look at all this beach. Look at how much beach you guys have got. You have no idea how it's going to be in 50 years when we've got no beach left and all the beach houses have fallen into the sea because of sea level rise. Anyway. Yeah, that there's a story. Also, you know what I might do? Oh, I should do this. So, if Jack and Abigail meet, sort of like tease them getting together, and then totally not have that happen at all. Not even a little. A, because he's going to get thrown in jail, and B, because, no, it's not going to happen. But, make it seem like they would. Give them a little bit of will they, won't they, and then just throw it out the window later. So, so, Seasonal Forest, I need Osflor Darker. Right there. Whoa. So, yeah, there's that. I'm going to need to write all that down. If anybody in the comments wants to chronicle it, go ahead, but actually don't, because that would be a lot of work, and I don't want you guys putting that sort of effort into the comments unless I'm going to really respond to them. So, if you're going to write a comment, write something that I can talk about, or that you want to hear about from me, or, questions, comments, concerns, that sort of thing. We've got 30 minutes left in the episode. I'm already getting to this. Can you tell I've run out of things to talk about? I like how I spent an hour and a half on my fictional railroad movie proposal. Although I don't suppose the fact that it's a movie proposal is fictional, but the movie itself is. And I spent all of 5 minutes on me passing literally the most difficult and most important test of my life. My priorities might be a little bit off, but maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, the film, I would hope... Now, the sort of whole thing with what happens with the rail trail in the end is going to be a denouement thing. It's going to be after everything goes by, or, goes on, and it's, Thompson's in jail, whatever. So, yay, they run the railroad, and you guys are free to continue. Interesting, orthodox situation with your locomotive there, but I can see that it's FRA compliant, and yada yada yada, because the implication is in this iteration of the universe, which is something I meant to write in a little bit, and I just haven't gotten around to it, is that 1455 will have just been restored to operation. So, anyway. Which is, again, fortuitous timing for the museum because their RS-1 went down and they couldn't run their excursions. So, anyway. The railroad, the railroad passes inspection, that they're using their thing correctly, the turnout is good enough, and the inspector is appeased, and they say, okay, you're free to continue running, you don't need to pay back the grant, right away or at all. And, whatever, I think you're doing a great job, or whatever he says. Not important. And so they continue running, and then it's going to be, when Tom gets put in jail, they get blah, 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 and then, sort of fade to, move over to Abigail with another group, with a, group that's mostly the same people from the beginning of the movie that were in the rail trail group. And she's saying, and this is our new plan to build this trail partially alongside the Housatonic right of way where we can, and partially over here, and blah, 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 and, she's advertising that, and everyone's like, yeah, awesome, we're doing a rails with trails. And then, maybe like an after-credits scene of the bicyclists or whatever. The other thing, the fun thing that I was thinking of, with the steam locomotive. The other thing that I was thinking of is the employees of the Housatonic are going to be dirt tired. And that's where, because I briefly mentioned a little while ago, several minutes ago, that Matty is getting into the things that Michael likes. And trains are one of them. He knows how to run a steam engine. At least he knows the basic premise of it. And so, as the main crew is sort of passing out, and they've got all these people crammed in the cab, but as the main crew is passing out, they're awake for the inspection. And, okay, we gotta run 3 more trips today. Listen, I'm just gonna... And so they hand it off to the kids. And they run the train. And that's gonna be the real, foam, oh my god, part of the film. So there, you get the foamer bit. There you go. This is supposed to be treeless, if I recall correctly. So let's get rid of these trees. And then we come out to an area with no things. This is why I lay down the grass, because it's a boundary for where I'm going to be. Remember in this show where we used to talk about route building? Remember that? You know what we should really talk about? Plastic straws. That's what we should be talking about. Anyway. Okay, let's look at this. So we've got... Oh, we can't see it because... Oh, wait, no, we can. We can see where the texture is. We've got scenery up to here now. And so we have that area filled in, which is nice. We have this filled in, which is really nice. And then we just need to, get up to here, and then the swamp is over here. Most of the stuff around here is going to be fairly simple until we get to Adams. This area is going to be interesting to do terrain-wise, because it's supposed to be bare, mostly, and rocky. Whereas everything over here and everything elsewhere is not that way. But, yeah. I do have to put the grass down first. That's a lot of freaking grass. Look at all this grass. That's almost as much as the swamp. Actually, it might be more. Yeah, no. I might include that, I might not. I think it'd be interesting to have that pay off, to be another Chekhov's gun. With the Matty learning how to run the train, Matty learning how to run the train. I had a friend named Matty, and I try to enunciate the T's without going Matty, but Matty, and not Maddie, which sounds exactly the same, but Maddie. There's no D. There's not a D. It's Matty. Anyway, it's funny because I knew a Matty before I knew a Maddie. The Maddie I know is Madison, and I don't call her that. I've only ever called her Madison, except a few times, which have been like a tongue-in-cheek or to make a rhyme, bad joke or something. But anyway, that's totally irrelevant. yeah, I'd like to have that Chekhov's gun go off. I'm setting up a lot of them. I really am. But I think having that whole thing happen at once with Thompson discovers who Jack is, calls the police. Mike is witness to that. Michael's witness to this. Also, he's Michael, not Mike. Michael's witness to this. Goes to get in the car to try to save, or to try to warn Jack. Thompson realizes what's going on, tries to prevent him from doing so. Abigail realizes what's going on. Can't really do anything at the moment, but sets out to try and protect him. And Michael's stopped from getting the car. He grabs the horse, he rides the horse. He gets there, Jack's being taken away. Abigail shows up immediately because she was in a car and not a horse. And also, one of the things, I think this could be interesting or fun to be thrown in, because he would know what the schedule of the Housatonic is. He could be riding along the track to get there, so that would be kind of cool. I don't think the horse would like that, though. I feel like horses aren't great with that. They're more great with dirt and whatever. But maybe they're better with dirt and wooden ties than they would be with asphalt. Does anybody know a lot about horses? I don't know, anything about horses. I know that they're four-legged creatures that sometimes win crowns. And one of them was called Seabiscuit. That's another one. I know that the last racing at Suffolk Downs, period, full stop, seriously, Suffolk Downs is closing, it's closed for good, was last month. And in fact, the place is getting massively redeveloped, and we're doing some of the work, because I've already had to work on that. Ouch. So yeah. I don't know a whole lot about horses. I do know that, I know a couple of basic things about horses. And I realize that they have horseshoes for a reason, but I'm not sure if they'd be great on asphalt. I'm not sure if they do well on that. And I definitely am not sure they'd be good running on it. And it might be just really cool to have him run on the track, because then he'd be out of the way of Thompson, and he'd be out of the way of Abigail. She wouldn't be able to get to him and tell him, hey, get in the car. But then again, she doesn't catch up to him until they're there, until they're at Pittsfield, which in this fictional setting is where the railroad is based. In real life, they're based in North Canaan or South Canaan or just regular Canaan, so one of those towns in Connecticut, and they're based in Massachusetts. Because I just wanted that setting. In fact, I didn't know where the railroad was based. I kind of assumed they were based in Pittsfield because it's at one end of their railroad, but they're sort of based in the middle. Pittsfield, there's some CSX stuff there. And there's some other buildings, and there's one that I've already figured would be we would use in the film as this is where they work out of. Oh, I still need to grass along here. I can't not do that. And this, I'm just going to make this dirt and not go crazy with it. Also, hour and 45 of talking. Man, my voice is not great. My throat hurts, but it's okay. Yeah, I think we figured that out. I really like that changeover, and who is this? Well, this is Abigail. I've told you about her. Oh, you're the head of the rail trail people. Not anymore, I'm not. What do you mean? We've got somebody in our ranks that's absolutely insane, and I can't stop him. Yeah, what's his name? And Michael's like, it's Thompson Rain. And Samuel's like, oh, that guy. Because, again, this is the guy they threw out. And it's like, what are you doing? Well, he shot at me on the way over here. He did what? Maybe they realized that already. Maybe they realized who it is already. But, either way, they have this revelation that there's, their main enemy is not Abigail, it's Thompson, and Abigail's like, I will help you, I can, who was that? And that was like, well, that was the president or the owner of the railroad, and he's gone now. And she's like, do you need to fill that position? And he goes, why? Because she said, I can do it. What do you mean you can do it? You've been trying to get rid of us. Yeah, but not because I don't like you. What do you mean? We heard you talk about blah, 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 how much we're dirty, we're outdated, we're, polluting, whatever you said. And she's like, I said those things because I needed to, I needed to rile people behind the cause, not because I necessarily think them. And so there's a typical politician right there. But, and you're like, sure, right. Likely story. And he, really, no, seriously, I will, I can do whatever you guys need me to do. And he's like, okay, well, what have we got to lose? They take her on. And, well, there goes Tane. Tane just crashed. I'm going to stop the recording compulsory and hope we don't lose very much. Yep. So let me go back in. So you guys are going to have to stay on the line. Sorry about that. Where's my... Oh, I don't even have my games folder open. Games. I was worried that it was going to do that this whole time. Start trains. So, anyway, this is weird. It's showing me a red number still. I'm wondering if I ever came back, if it would continue recording, but I really don't think it would. Let me do that, and then that, and that'll just give us a short little video file to make sure everything's working, and then I'm going to go into the edit session, use changes, and I hope we didn't lose very much. And then I'll start the video up once we're back in the session, because I don't want it to become desynchronized again. We only have like 10 more minutes, but still, that's 10 minutes to get something done. And 10 minutes to talk about Abigail's redemption. Yeah, who was that? Who was that just got taken away? That was Jack. Okay, well, what have we got to lose? Let's just put you in charge and see what happens. And, if you start to, try to undermine us, we'll just get rid of you. And so she's like, okay, I'm in charge. We'll do this, we'll do that. And, looks at the books and realizes, holy crap, this is all over the place. The money that's being thrown around is insane. And she realizes that, oh, this was just like money laundering, wasn't it? And they're like, what do you mean? And she's like, look, it was just money laundering. Oh no, we lost all of that. We lost everything we did. Wait. Oh no, oh my god, it just wasn't updated in the map. I seriously thought we lost everything we did. We almost... No. We have about right up until I started copy-pasting, so... That's pretty good, all things considered. Okay, let me just restart the recording. So, yeah, this is what we've got. So we didn't really lose anything over here. Did we? Like, the cars should be here. The cars are there. That's a pretty late indicator of stuff that was going on. Let me sync. I hope that works, or you can't, like, see the button being pressed right as I click it, but anyway. Yeah, this area's cleared out. Alright, so I'm pretty sure the vast majority of our progress was saved. So, anyway, I'm going to need to mark out the edges of where the trees are going to be once again. I'm going to need to do it in the route layer. And not with track. So, yeah. And then she figures out how to balance the books, figures out what the hell was going on, realizes that the railroad was making more than they thought because, again, or they at least could make more than they thought because Jack wasn't balancing the books, not even a little. He didn't care about doing that. He wasn't doing the accounting that he should have. He just put the minimum amount of money towards the railroad and pocketed everything else. along with all of the other money that he was getting from his various other sources. So she realized, oh, we've got a bunch of money in the coffers because they were technically not under him, because they were under another name, which was just tied to the railroad. And, again, sort of realized that, yeah, this is a mess, but we have more than we think. We can do things. We can repair, some of these engines, and we can probably hire some more people, too. And they're like, awesome, let's do it. And they sort of, in that moment, realize, oh, this lady's trying to actually help us. She's trying to make our lives better and run this railroad that she's, that she basically feels guilty for damaging in the first place. And, and so they let her do it, and she makes contracts, and she brings people in to fix the other engines, but none of them are going to be ready in a couple of days. They're all going to take a while. And then, literally in a couple of days, they lose their only functioning engine, and she panics. Like, what do I do? I just set out all these contracts for these other engines. We may have had some money, but we didn't have that much money. We can't just go and, buy or lease another engine. We certainly can't do it on this short of notice. What are we going to do? And, and then there's another character. There's another character that I haven't really thought of, and that's the old guy. The museum volunteer old guy, who, maybe was part of something, maybe was, or, was definitely paying attention to the rail trail meetings and definitely became friends with Mike, or was already friends with Michael. And so he's like, wait, I think we can call somebody. And he talks to them, okay, we can get this engine, but we're gonna have to steal it. They're like, what? Yeah. And that's their only option. Now, maybe I should watch the Titfield Thunderbolt. I think I did bring this up. Maybe I should watch it just to sort of realize how that goes about, how that decision actually happened. Maybe it's, okay. Maybe it's more like, calls him up. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's me, Mike. Yeah, what? Yeah, we're from the Housatonic. We need to, could you talk to some of the higher-ups of the museum and see if we can borrow an engine for tomorrow? He goes, well, we've only got one engine that works right now. I don't care. It's just, can it make track speed? Well, yeah, probably. It can make track speed. Okay. Well, we need to borrow it. Or we need it for a day. Say it's going to go on an excursion or something. We just need it tomorrow. It's like, okay, let me talk to somebody. And he goes away, comes back. Yeah, maybe at the gates of the museum at, 1 in the morning or whatever. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess. And he's like, alright, come in. And this is the engine. And it takes them over to the frickin' 1455. And they're like, what? You want us to take the 1455, the steam engine? He's like, yeah. What? Why not? Like, did the museum say we could take this? No. Okay. Guys, what are we doing? So, yeah, that's, and the old timer sort of coaxes them into it, and they're like, well, we've got no other choice at this point, we just gotta take the engine, and, they get in the cab, obviously they have no idea how to run a steam engine, the kid's, like, trying to figure it out, and the old timer's like, I can show you I can show you how to do this. And then just sort of watches them leave. Like, he doesn't really have a stake in it. He just wanted to see the engine out on the main line one last time before he died. And that was his opportunity. He's just playing Agent of Chaos. He is chaotic neutral. He doesn't necessarily care who succeeds, but he wants there to be some fun in the meantime. Yeah. That's what I should do. That'd be a fun exercise. Take everyone in the movie and put them on the the chart. Okay, we've got some lines here for where the foliage will end, but this doesn't make sense. So let's get rid of this. This doesn't make sense anymore, because this whole area is going to be rocky. And this probably should wrap off back that way as well. There are only going to be trees up here. Now, I don't want to copy-paste anything for the rest of this episode because I don't want to do that. But there should be trees up there. And only up there. And not really anywhere else. And then down here's another issue. We still got all this swamp to deal with. Although we have done a pretty good sized chunk of it. We have, like, it's like a quarter of it that's done. So we can, like, look at this a little bit while we're over here. What area has, okay, this area has the splines, this area has the splines, and it sort of ends here because that's where my texturing ended. And then there's this area here. Yeah. I don't know. I've been putting a lot of thought into that movie, and I've really just been putting thought into the characters and not the character interactions in the plot, necessarily. So this has really been, it's really been a way for me to think through the plot and what things happen where in order to enable the character changes that I want to have happen. In order to enable the character opportunities. You know, Abigail, again, because she's not really that rooted in the whole rail trail thing, she doesn't, you know, she is probably less rooted in the whole rail trail thing than Maddie is. And Maddie, you know, Maddie is going to flip mostly because she wants to get the guy, but also because she is one of the more moderate rail trail advocates and would not at all side with Thompson. So, you know, so it makes sense for her to sort of take it easy with regard to that and not make that her like her defining thing. She doesn't stick with the rail trail because she doesn't care that much about the rail trail. She wants the multi-use trail, but she's really there because it seems like it'd be a great thing to have and not that she wants to get the railroad out. You know, and I need to develop the interactions between all of them, you know, as time goes on. But that's, you know, that's something that's going to happen sort of as the script progresses, and I'm really glad I could go through this this brainstorming bit with you guys. If you're tired about hearing about the Housatonic, just say something, and I'll talk about something else, or at least I'll do my best to. And if you're really tired about hearing the Housatonic and you want to make sure that I definitely don't talk about it, what you should do is give me something else to talk about. So, that's the most surefire way to get me to shut up about a topic, is to give me another topic that I will talk passionately about. So, yeah, there you go. There's your easy out, folks. Let me cover the bottom of this basin with dirt. So, this is all very shallow. So it's not... Uh-oh, I missed a spot with the water. Alright, add some water. Right there. There we go. Okay. Then we have the tracks over here. This area is looking so much better already. Like, the work that we put in on this area is great. And I can't wait until we're working up the canyon here. We already have that over there, which is something that I added not too long ago. We just need to do Adams, which, with the way that Treadway Beach came out, I am so excited to work on Adams. It's one of the other places that I'm afraid to get wrong. I'm afraid won't look right. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I will see you next week. Trainman out.